Shabbat Shalom, good morning. This is shaping up to be a super Shabbat. See how many times we can make that joke today. We're really excited for Rachel's bat mitzvah. We're excited to celebrate Shabbat with all of you. We're going to begin on page 103. I ask that if you're able to do so, please rise for Birkot HaShachar.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lazakvivina lehafkim ben yom uben layla. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani betzalmo. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani ben chorin. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam abisha rumim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim melech haolam zokef kefufim. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim melech haolam rok ha'aretz al hamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim melech haolam hamechem et tzedek haver. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim melech haolam shasali kortzor ki. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim melech haolam osi Yisrael bigvura. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim melech haolam otir Yisrael b'tifara. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim melech haolam hanoten la'ef koach.
Amen. Please be seated.
Utenenu hayom uv'chol yom lecheinu l'sarakamim beinecha uvenei koroenu v'tigmul hasadim tovim. Baruch atah Adonai gomel hasadim tovim le'amo Yisrael.
We're on page 105.
Ashreinu matav kalkeinu manam gorelinu mafayiru shetenu. Ashreinu shaknu mashkimim umarivim erevavoker ve'omrim v'mayim bechol yom Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Kadesh et shimcha magdashei shemecha v'kadesh et shimcha olomecha uvishuatcha tzanu mitagbi akranenu baruch atah Adonai mekadesh et shimcha barabim.
Beginning on page 107, we have an opportunity to study a passage of Torah. Afterwards, we'll say Kaddish de Rabbanan.
Yiratzon menefanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu shetiten chalkeinu b'toratzecha v'nimi tamid avshel Aharon HaKohen ohev shalom v'rodef shalom u'rabiotim korvan laTorah.
Kaddish de Rabbanan for mourners and those observing a yortzeit is found on page 111. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah be'alma divrak kirutei v'yamlik malkutei B'chayechon u'vyomechon u'chayei dekol Beit Yisrael ba'agala u'bizman kariv v'imru amen Yehei shmei Rabba mevarak le'olam u'me'al maya Yitbarak v'yishtabak v'yitpa'ar v'yitremam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalau shemei dekudisha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran be'alma v'imru amen Al Yisrael ve'al Rabbanan ve'al Talmidechon ve'al kol Talmidei Talmidechon ve'al kol man da'askin be'oraita di ve'atra hadin v'di v'kol atar ve'atar yechei lechon ulchon shlama rabba hina v'chista ve'rachamim ve'chayim arichim umzona revicha ufor kana mikodam ahuvon di vishmaya v'imru amen yehei shlama rabba min shemaya V'chaim tovim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Amen.
Oseh shalom b'imromav hu barachamav yaseh shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen.
Hayom Shabbat Kodesh. Oh my gosh, means more Shalom. Shabbat.
We're on page 112.
Holy November Sefer Shenim Ranim Yu Lehagid Ki Ashar Adonai Tzuriva Lo Avlatabo.
We continue page 120.
Mizmor Shir Hanu Karabala Levidarim Chaikin Latani Velasrum. Zaman Lakatsi David Kochokiro. Hafta mismilum lakoli, patak the sakivelas reni simcha. The mankus vavlo yidom ananai Elohai leolam odecha.
The Mourner's Kaddish is on page 121. Yitzgadal v'yitzgadash shemei rabbah.
Amen.
Ve'alma divra kirute v'yamlik malkute. V'chayechon uvyomechon uchaye dekol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala ubizman kariv v'imru.
Amen.
Amen.
Yehi shmei rabah mevorach l'olam l'olmei almaya.
Yitbarak v'yishtabak v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitale v'yithalal shemei dekudisham barichu le'lamin kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata damiran be'alma v'imru. Amen.
Amen.
Yehi shlama rabamin shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen.
Amen.
Oseh shalom b'imromav huya oseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen.
Amen.
Good morning, everyone. We're going to continue with Pesukei D'Zimra on page 122. I ask that you please rise.
Baruch she'amar v'hayalam. Baruch hu. Baruch hu se'bereshit. Baruch me've'osei. Baruch hu se'kamehem. Baruch atan melech ha'olam. Baruch hu b'fiyamo mishpah.
Ha'ela baracham v'fiyamo.
Yachid ke'olamim elemu shabakam v'nei shemo hagadol. Baruch atah Adonai melech hulal v'tishbachot.
Please be seated. We're on page 123.
Shiru lo zamru lo shiru tav.
Odiyu b'amim alilotav, shiru lo
Zira
zamru
Yisrael
lo
adom b'nei
Hashem
Yaakov
kodsho.
b'chirav. V'Adonai Eloheinu b'kol tav zikru le'adam b'tov. Shiru lo lekol ha'aretz Ki kol Elohei ha'amim elilim v'Adonai shamayim asa.
Ode alefanav ozvedom.
Yismechu hashamayim v'tagel ha'aretz v'malach. Agitov kilom ha'az dobi lo shenu yeshinu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtachavu l'hakodsho ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu
Be'urachum.
v'hurachum yakapir v'lo yashkit v'her
Ve'er
b'al
bal
yashiva
yashiva po v'lo
v'lo
yekol chamato.
Zechor rachamech Adonai zdekam El Yisrael hu noten Adonai tzivahot asher moteach bach Adonai Hoshia HaMelech Eneinu ve'yom korenu Hoshia et amecha Uvarech enagalatecha Urem, 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 urem benasem Urem benasem ad ha'olam Hoshia et amecha Uvarech enagalatecha Urem, 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 urem benasem Urem benasem ad ha'olam Nav sheinu mitzad Adonai zunihu ki osam livim Asher Shalom Elohav. Va'ani b'chatztaka b'dakti ageli v'shuatecha Ashira l'Adonai ki gamal alai.
We continue together on page 132. I ask that if you're able to do so, please rise as we continue with additional morning blessings.
Hodu l'Adonai ki tov ki le'olam chazdo Hodu l'Elohei ha'elohim seorim gedolim, ki leolam chazdo. Et hashemesh lemem shelet bayom, ki leolam chazdo. Et hayareach v'chokavim, lemem shelo balayla. Lemolicha mo bamidbar, ki leolam chazdo. Lemake melachim gedolim, ki leolam chazdo. Vayaharog melachim adirim, ki leolam chazdo. Venatan artzam nachala, ki leolam chazdo. Nachala leYisrael avdo, ki leolam chazdo. Nai 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 nai, ki leolam chazdo. Noten lechem lecho basar, ki leolam chazdo. Hodu le'el hashamayim, ki leolam chazdo. Nai 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 nai, ki leolam chazdo.
Please be seated. We continue page 136 with Ashrei.
Ashrei yoshvei beitecha, odi halelucha sela. Hashem shachalo, Hashem shalom Elohav, tehi la David. Haromim cha Elohai hamelech, v'rafshem olam ve, v'choyim u'rechecha v'lashem. Botek, Sadiq, Masov. Tehilat Adonai Repi, Vivarhekos Hashem Kodsho Le'olam Va'ed, Va'anak Nevarek Ya, Me'ata Ve'ad Olam, Hallelujah.
Page 141.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 El Mikodsho, hallelujah, Merkiyahuzo, hallelujah, Bigvurotav, hallelujah, Kirov Gudlo, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, take a shofar. Hallelujah, never bechinor. Hallelujah, tofu machol. Hallelujah, menim beyukav. Hallelujah, 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 tziltzilei shama. Hallelujah, tziltzilei truah. Hallelujah, tziltzilei shama. Hallelujah, tziltzilei truah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Kol anshemat hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Please rise.
Kol anshemat hallelujah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen ve'amen. Baruch Moshe Ken Yerushalayim, hallelujah. Baruch Adonai Elohim Elohei Yisrael, osei nifla levado, u'baruch Shem kavod le'olam, v'yimalei kivado et kol haaretz, amen ve'amen. V'yavaretz David.
We're on page 142.
Atahu Adonai ha'Elohim asher b'chartam ba'Avraham ve'oteito mirakazdim v'tzata shemo Avraham u'matata levavo ne'eman lefanecha v'kavroti meromiti t'eretz. V'hayam b'katzal lifneihem v'yevaru b'tagom b'basha ve'edwar fehem yishlach lamim solot kemo even memayim azim ויושע אדוני ביום ההוא את ישראל ממצרים, והיה ישראל ממצרים לשפת הים, והיה ישראל אשר עשה אדוני במצרים, וירם את אדוני, ויאמינו באדוני ובמשה עבדו. אז יושב משה ובני ישראל את השירה הזאת לאדוני ולאמור שיר לנו גאה. סוס ורום וים אוסיף את זמרת יבהי לישועה זה. כי לאדוני המלוך המשל בגויים, ועל משה בר ציון איש פורי סף, ואת אדוני המלוכה, והיה אדוני מלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד שמו אחד.
Please be seated. We continue page 145.
Nai 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 נשמת כל חי תברך את שמך תברך את שמך אדוני אלוהינו ברוך כל בצרתנו הנה פילים עליך נהללך ונשבחך ונפארך ונברך את שם קודשך כמו לדוד ברכי נפשי את אדוני וכל קרובי את שם קודשו האבטת ומרוזך הגדול בכבוד שמך הגיבור לנצח בנורא בנורותיך המלך היושב על כיסא רם ונישא
147.
שוכן עד מרום וקדוש שמו
שוכן עד מרום וקדוש שמו
וכתוב רננו צדיקים באדוני לישרים נבטחינה בפי ישרים תתהלל ובדברי צדיקים תתברך ובלשון חסידים תתרומם ובקרב קדושים תתקדש ובמחלות רבבות עמך בית ישראל ברינה יתפאר שמך מלכנו בכל דור ודור שכן כל לבד כל הצורים לפניך אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו להודות להלל לשבח לפאר לרומם להלל לברך להלל קלס הכל דברי שירו ותשבחות דוד בן ישי עבדך משיחך ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו ברכות והודאות מעתה ועד עולם ברוך אתה אדוני אל מלך גדול בתשבחות אל ההודאות אדון הנפלאות הבוחר בשירי זמרה מלך אלוהי העולמים.
Please rise for Hatzi Kaddish. We're on page 148.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה ועמד יברק ירצה וימליך מלכותי וחייכון וימכון וחי לכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן יהי וישמר עם המבורך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר וינשא ויתהדר ויצלם ויצלל שמי לקדושה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
Please be seated, page 150.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהים מלך העולם יצורך חושך עושה שלום ובורא את הכל. הכל ידעוך ולמוכוך המסעדה יוצר הכל הרבותך בכל יום. הן כרכך ואין תוצאך אפת פיצך ומדומה לך. הן כרכך אדוני אלוהינו בעולם הזה ואין זרעך מכנו לחיי העולם הבא. אפס פיצך גואלנו לימות המשיח ואין דומה משיחנו לתחיית המתים. אל
אדון על כל המעשים ברוך ומבורך לפי כל נשמה גודלו וטובו מלא עולם דעת ותבונה סובבים אותו.
המתקייל חיות הקודש בנר וכבוד על המרכבה זכור ומישור
לבני כיסו חסד ורחמים לפני כבודו.
טובים מאורות שברא אלוהינו יצרם בדעת בבינה ובהשכל כוח וגבורה נתן בהם להיות מושלים בקרב תבל מלאים זיו ומפיקים נוגה נאי זיוון בכל העולם שמחים בצאתם וששים בבואם עושים בהם הרצון קונם פאר וכבוד נונים לשמוץ עולה ורינה לזכר מלכותו קרא לשמש ויזרח אורה והתקין צורת הלבנה שבח נותנים לו כל צבא מרום תפארת וגדולה שרפים ואופנים וחיות הקודש לאלה
ששבת מכל המעשים.
Page 152.
תתברך משיענו שבג מעשה ידיך ואמר שעשית יפרוך הסלע. תתברך צורנו מלכנו וגואלנו בורא קדושים ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו יוצר השתים. כולם אהובים, כולם ברורים, כולם גיבורים וכולם עושים בהם רצון קונם וכולם פותחים אפיהם דושב תורה בשירה ובזמרה מברכים ומשבחים ומפארים ומריצים ומקדישים וממליכים את שם האל המלך הגדול הגיבור והנורא הקדוש הוא וכולם מקבלים עליכם מלכות שמיים זה מזה ונותנים רשות זה לזה להקדיש שם מנחת רוח בשפה ברורה ונקדושה כולם כקרונים ואומרים ביראה קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלוא כל הארץ כבודו ואופנים וחיות הקודש ברעש גדול מנסים לעומת שרפים לעומתם משחים ואומרים ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו לאל ברוך נמו איתנו
לאל ברוך נמות איתנו.
המחדש בצופו בכל יום תאמין מעשה בראשית כאמור לעושה הרים גדולים כי לעולם חסדו אור חדש של ציון תאר ונזכה כולנו מעל לאורו ברוך אתה אדוני יוצר המורות.
154.
אהבה Malkeinu, Ba'avur Avoteinu, Shebatchu Vecha, Avinu Malkeinu. Vatalamdemku kechaim, kentechonenu lamdenu, Avinu ha'avarachaman, hamrachem rachem aleinu. V'ten belibenu lehavin, laskir lishmoa, lilmod ulelamed, lishmor velasot, ulekayem et kol divrei Talmud Toratecha be'ahava, v'ha'erinenu b'toratecha, v'dabek libeinu b'mitzvotecha, v'yalked levavenu le'ahava u'yir'a et shemecha, v'lo nevosh le'olam va'ed, v'lo nevosh le'olam va'ed,
לעולם ועד כי בשם קודשך הגדול והנורא בטחנו נגילה ונשמחה נגילה ונשמחה בישועתך והביאנו לשלום מארבע כנפות הארץ ותוליכנו קוממיות לארצנו כי אל פועל ישועות אתה ובאנו וגרת מכל עם ולשון וקרבתנו לשמך הגדול סלע באמת להודות לך ולחרך באהבה ברוך אתה אדוני הבוקר בעמו ישראל באהבה שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני Hafta. Vayim Shemot Utaisha. Vayom Shem more depends. Adonai Elohechem emet. Emet Elohei Olama. Ledor vador ukayam shmo kayam v'chiso nachon u'marguto v'emanato la'ad kayam etil v'chayim. Emet shatahu Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu Malkeinu melech avotenu go'elenu go'el avotenu Yotzenu t'yeshuatenu bodenu atzilenu me'olam shemecha Ein Elohim zulatecha Ezrat avotenu atahu me'olam Tehilot le'elyon baruch hu v'orak Moshe u'Miriam u'bnei Yisrael L'chanu shira b'simcha rabba ve'amru kulam Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai Mi kamocha nedar v'kodesh Nora tehilot o seifele
שירה חדשה, שיבחו גאולים, לשמחה שפת הים, יחד כולם הודו, והמליכו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד.
Please rise.
צור ישראל, קומה בעזרת ישראל, ובדקנו מכה יהודה וישראל, גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו, קדוש ישראל, ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל.
Amen.
The Shabbat morning Amidah can be found on page 159.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzhak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Konei HaKol v'Zocher Chazdei Avot U'mevii Goel Livnei B'neihem Le'ma'an Shemo Be'ahava Melech Ozer U'Foker Moshiach U'Magen Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Abraham u'Foked Sarah, Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayem itim atah Rav leHoshia, Mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem, Mechakel chayim bechesed, Mechayem itim berachamim rabim, Somek noflim verofeh kolim, Umatir asurim, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר מחמוך בעל גבורות ומדומה לך מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב היה נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש קדוש קדוש, אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ כבודו. אז בקול רעש גדול, אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול, מנסים לעומת שרפים, לעומתם ברוך יאמרו, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. ממקומך מלכנו תופיע, ותמלוך עלינו כי מחכים אנחנו לך. מתי תמלוך בציון, בקרוב בימינו לעולם ועד תשכון. תתקדש ותתקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך, לדור ודור ולנצח נצחים, ועינינו תראינה מלכותך, כדבר האמור בשירי עוזך, על ידי דוד משיח צדקך. ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון לדור ודור, הללויה לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו ומוש לעולם ועד, כי המלך גדול וקדוש אתה. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh.
We continue praying the Amidah silently. Please use the words of the Siddur or the private meditations of your own heart.
you finish praying the Amidah, you may be seated. We're going to continue with Kaddish Shalem, page 167.
Yikral v'grashem meraba.
Amen.
Ve'amadi v'rakirute ve'amlik malkute b'chaya kolim v'mekonu v'chaydogo be'Yisrael bagala uvizman kari ve'meru. Amen. Yehesh meraba mevarach ve'alam ulam me'almaya.
Yitbarach.
Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'arin v'yinaseh v'yitadar v'yitalei v'tzala shemei kedusha.
Brechu.
Ve'elam in kobrakata v'shirata tushbrakata v'nechemata damira me'alma v'imru.
Amen.
Kabat slot tahonu v'u tahonu kol Yisrael kodam ahonu v'shemaya v'imru.
Amen.
Yehi shalom aram v'shemaya v'chaim alenu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru.
Amen.
Say shalom rumav. Say shalom alenu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen.
At this time, I would like to invite Ben and Jill to please come up to the bima. Adam, you can come too if you want, but you can also stay in your place, your choice, to present Rachel with her talit.
Amen.
Let us please rise as we join Rachel and her family in a Shecheyanu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehecheyanu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehecheyanu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
Let us remain standing. We continue on page 168. Page 168, Seder Kriyat HaTorah, service for taking out and reading from the Torah.
Ein kamoha Elohim Adonai, ve'ein kemasecha, malhutecha malhut, kol amim, u'monshaltecha behodor vador, Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai imloch, le'olam va'ed, Adonai oz, le'amo yitain, Adonai yiparech, et amo v'shalom, av ha'rahamim, heitiva b'rtzoncha et Zion, tivnei homo Yerushalayim, tivnei homo Yerushalayim, ki becha levad batachnu, melech el ram v'nisan, Adon olamim. Vayhi b'nso Aharon v'yomer Moshe, Kuma
Adonai, ve'yafutzu oivecha, ve'yanusu mesanecha, mipanecha.
Ki metzion tetzeh Torah,
Ki mitzion
tetzeh Torah, udevar Adonai,
Yerushalayim,
Baruch Shenata Torah, Torah, Baruch Shenata Torah, Torah, La'amo Yisrael,
Bigdushato.
Brief Lishme demare ama.
Lishmei de Mariano.
Be'anara hates. Velishme kadisha kadisha yakira. Ana ema tushbechan. Yehe ra'ava kodama. Ditif taf livi ve'oi raita. Vitashli menshali delivi. Deliva dechol amach Yisrael. Vitavo hayim ve'isham. Amen. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonai Kadosh Shema.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. And just a reminder, as Rachel makes her way down the aisle and back, please do not reach to touch the Torah. Let her just go back and forth. Lecha Adonai ve'agevura ve'atiferet ve'anetzach ve'ahod.
כי כה בשמיים ובארץ, כי כה בשמיים ובארץ. לך אדוני עממך ועמי נעשה לכל ראש. רוממו אדוני וישתחוו אליו הקדושו, רוממו אדוני וישתחוו אליו הקודשו, כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו.
Let us please be seated. Habarachamim. Rachel has worked very, very hard in preparing a Devar Torah to share with us her becoming a bat mitzvah. So please, Rachel, slowly and loudly.
Okay. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
My Torah portion is Vayera. This is the same Torah portion we read from on Rosh Hashanah. This Torah portion has three main stories. The first one was about three angels come to see Abraham. They inform him that he and his wife Sarah will be having a baby. Sarah had a son. They named him Isaac. A few years after Isaac was born, Sarah convinces Abraham to banish Hagar and Ishmael. Ishmael is Isaac's half-brother. God says he'll make a nation out of Ishmael. Finally, God gives Abraham a test. He says, "Sacrifice your son tomorrow morning," and Abraham says, "Okay." At the last second, God stopped Abraham from doing that. He sacrificed a ram instead. The second story was about an evil place called Sodom. God wanted to destroy it, but Abraham asked if he found 10 good people, would he spare the city? Abraham could not find 10 good people. Therefore, God decided to go ahead and destroy the city. Before God destroyed the city, he made sure Abraham's nephew Lot and his family escaped. God told them not to look back as their city was being destroyed, but Lot's wife looked back and turned to a pillar of salt. The final story is about Abraham and Sarah going into the wilderness. At some point during the story, Pharaoh, who ruled over the land, notices Sarah's beauty. Pharaoh sees Sarah and wants to marry her. Abraham tells him that they are brother and sister, so the king won't take his life. Sarah and Pharaoh spent some time together, but soon after, God told Pharaoh the truth about Abraham and Sarah's real relationship. Pharaoh sent her back to him with lots of presents. This Torah portion has been commented on more than any other Torah portion. Vayera is one of the most important religious texts in the life of the Jewish people. Nachmanides, who is known as Ramban, was a medieval Torah commentator from Spain. He tells us that Abraham was not passive, instead known to be a warm, welcoming person who brought guests into his tent often. He was considered selfless and concerned about the needs of others. He would guide his guests to their destinations, not just saying farewell at the door. Showing hospitality to strangers is a way of welcoming God into our lives. This is one of the reasons why God chooses Abraham to be the father of the Jewish people. One of the questions that is frequently asked about Abraham is how he argues with God when he sees an injustice about to happen. I don't think it is fair for good people to suffer, but it happens in life. It only takes one person who is evil or bad and ruins it for a group of good people. Abraham argued with God when he was about to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah because he didn't want the good people to be destroyed with the evil people. He stood up to God. The question we have to ask ourselves is if we are able to stand up to an injustice when we see it happening and act like Abraham did. Also, why did someone who stood up to God just agree to sacrifice his son immediately when asked? In my opinion, I don't believe it was a big deal for Abraham to sacrifice Isaac. Back in those times, human sacrifice was not considered a big deal. Many cultures practice it. In today's times, what Abraham was asked to do would be considered too religious or extreme, and he would be put in jail for murder. You can still be connected to God without sacrificing living things. We use prayer instead of sacrifice to feel closer to God. As we have learned from our Jewish history, the final outcome of the story teaches us that if we hear or believe that God has instructed us to do something wrong or immoral, we should exercise common sense, as this is a warning of a religious extremist. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Very good.
Our Torah reading this morning, the portion of Vayera. We're reading this year the middle section of each portion. So we begin this morning with the entrance into chapter 19, the bottom of 104.
הברח המרחם עושים בזכורביתנו מיציא נפשותינו מן השעות הרעות, בעיקר ביצר הרע מן נשואים ביחון, אותנו לפליטת עולמים במעלה משאלותינו, במידה טובה ישועה ורחמים, ויעזור ויגן ויושב לכל החוסים בו ונאמר אמן. הכל אבו גודל אלוהינו כבוד לתורה, יעמוד ראובן בן דוד אליהו ראשון, ברוך שנתן תורה למוזל בקדושתו, ואתם מדליקים באדוני אלוהיכם, חיים כולכם היום.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvorach.
ברוך ה' מורך לעולם ועד.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen.
One of the difficult things about the portion of Breshit is that a lot of times there's no like columns and there's columns rather, but no paragraphs, so it's hard to find exactly where things start and end. So just bear with me for a second, and we'll have everything ready to go. Got it. Page 104, the very bottom. Amen. Vayavohu shenei hamalachim Sedoma ba'erev. V'lot yoshe b'sha'ar Sedom. Vayarlot vayakam likratam vayishtachu apayim arza. Vayomer hinen Adonai suruna el beit avdechem velinu v'rachatzu raglechem v'hishkamtem b'halachtem l'darkchem vayomru lo kivarchov nalin vayiftzar baham me'od vayasuru elav vayavohu el beito Vayas lahem mishteh umatzot afa vayochelu terem yishkavu v'anshe ha'ir anshe sedom nasabu al habayit mina'ar ve'ad zaken kol ha'am mikatzeh Vayikra'uhu elot vayom rulo aye hanashim asher ba'u elecha halayla hozim eleinu v'nei daha otam vayetzeh aleihem lot hapetcha v'hadelet sagar acharav vayomar al na'achai tareyu Hine nali shetei banot asher lo yeruish otziana eten alechem v'yasu lahen katov be'einechem rak lanashim ha'el al tasu davar ki al kain ba'u bitzel korati vayomru gesh hala Vayamru ha'echad ba'alagur vayishpot shafot ata neralecha mehem vayivtzeru be'ish belot me'od vayikshu lishbor hadalet vayishlechu ha'anashim et yadam vayaviyu et lot aleihem habaita v'et hadelet sagaru V'et ha'anashim asher petach habayit hiku basan ve'rim mikatan v'ad gadol va'yil ulim tzo ha'patach
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah temet v'chayei olam nata v'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Our second Aliyah this morning will be joining us via Zoom. Ya'amol Yitzhak ben David Sheni.
Our Aliyah begins with the middle of page 106, verse number 12.
Baruch Adonai Barach Le'olam Va'ed.
Vayomru ha'anashim elot od milecha fo chatanu v'adnecha uvnotecha v'chol asher lecha ba'ir hotzeh min hamakom ki mashchitim anachnu et hamakom hazeh ki galatz akatam et pinei Adonai vayishalchenu Adonai l'shachataha Vayetzeh Lod Vayedaber Chatanav Lokchei Benotav Vayomer Kumu Tzeu Min Hamakom Hazeh Ki Mashchit Adonai Et Ha'ir Vayehi Kimtzachek Beinei Chatanav Uchmo HaShachar Allah Vayaitzu Hamalachim Belot Lemor Kum Kacher ishtcha v'et shtei v'notecha hanimtzaot penti safeh ba'avon ha'ir
Vayitmama Vayachaziku Anashim Biado Uvyad Ishto Uvyad Shetei Benotav Bechemlat Adonai Allah Vayotziuhu Vaynicheu Michutz La'ir Vayehi Chotziam Otam Hachutza Vayomer Himalet et Al Navshecha Al Tabit Acharecha V'Al Ta'amod Bechol HaKlikar Hahara Himalet Pentisafeh Vayomer Lot Alehem Al Na Adonai Hine Na Matzah Avdecha Chen Beinecha Vatagdel Chascha Asher Asita Imadi Lehachayot et Nafshi V'anochi Lo Uchal Himalet Hahara Pentid Bakani Hara Avamati Hine Naha'ir Hazokrova Lanushama Hinitzar Imalta Nashama Halomitzar Hi Utechi Nafshi
Amen. Our third aliyah will continue on Zoom. Ta'amod bat Sheva Rachel bat Zorak Yaakov v'Simcha lev shlishi.
We're toward the bottom of page 107, verse number 21.
Baruch Adonai Barach le'olam va'ed.
Amen. Vayomer Elav, Hine Nasati Panecha, Gaham La Davar Hazeh, Levilti Havchi et Ta'ir, Asher Dibarta Maher, Himalet Shama Kilo Chalasot Davar, Ad Boacha Shama Al Kenkara, Shem Ha'ir Tzoar, Hashemesh Yatsa Al Haaretz Velot Bat So'ara, Vadonai Himtir Al Sidom V'Al Amorah, Gafrit Va'esh Me'et Adonai Min Hashamayim, Vayahafochet Ha'arim Ha'el V'Kol HaKikar V'Kol Yoshvei Ha'arim, V'Tzemach Ha'adama, V'Tabedish Tomei Acharav, V'Tihi Nitziv Melach, Vayashkem Avraham Baboker El Hamakom Asher Amad Sham Epinei Adonai, Vayashkev Al Pinei Sedom V'Amorah, V'Al Kol Pinei Eretz HaKikar, Vayar V'Hinei Alakitor Ha'aretz Kikitor HaKivshan, Vayehi B'Shachet Elohim Et Harei HaKikar, Vayizkor Elohim et Avraham, Vayishlach et Lot, mitoch ha'hafecha, Bahafochet ha'arim, asher yashav bahen Lot.
Amen. Our fourth aliyah is on page 108, the last line on the page, and is back here in the sanctuary. Yamho Nacham Ruben ben Yitzhak v'Yetza Rivi'i.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Barach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen.
Amen. Mitzoar vayeshev bahar. Ushte v'notav imo ki yarei lashevet bitzoar. Vayeshev amarahu ushte v'notav. Vatomer habechira el hatzeira. Avinu zakein v'ishein ba'aretz lavo aleinu kederech kol haaretz. Lechanashke et avinu yayin v'nishkeva imo n'chayeh me'avinu zara. Vatashkena et avihen yayin balayla hu. Vatavo habechira vatishkav et aviha v'lo yada b'shichva uvkuma. Vayihimi macharat vatomer habechira el hatzeira. Hein shachavt yemesh et avi nashkenu yayin gaham halayla. Uvo ishich v'imo unchayet me'avinu zara. Vatashkena gamba laila hahu et avi hen yayin. Vatakam hatzeira vatishkahav imo. V'lo yada b'shikva uvkuma. Vatarena shtevenot lot me'avi hen. Vateled habechira bein. Vaitikra shemo Moav, huavi Moav ad hayom. V'hatzira gam hi yalda bein, Vaitikra shemo ben Ami, huavi b'nei Ammon ad hayom.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai, Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Our fifth aliyah takes us to the bottom of page 109, verse 20. Yamdu Benjamin Yehoshua ben Zorach Yaakov, Vehudi Saviva ba Yitzhak v'Yetzach Hamishi.
Beginning of chapter 20, our new chapter, the very bottom of 109.
Baruch Adonai Barak Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Barak Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayisa misham Avraham artza Negev. Vayeshev ben Kadesh uvein Shur. Vayagar bigrar. Vayomer Avraham el Sarah ishto achotihi. Vayishlach Avimelech melech gerar. Vayikach et Sarah. Vayelohim el Avimelech b'chalom halayla. Vayomer lo hincha met al ha'isha asher lakachta. V'hi be'ulad Baal. Vavimelech lo karav eleha. Vayomar. Vayomer Adonai Hagoy gam Tzadik Taharog Halu Amar li Achotihi V'hi gam hi amra achihu B'tam levaviv Nikion kapaya siti zot Vayomer Elav ha'Elohim B'chalom gam anochi yadati Ki b'tam levavcha asita zot V'echsho gam anochi odcha mechatoli Al kain lo nataticha lingoa eleha, v'ata hashev eshet ha'ish ki navihu, v'yitpalel badcha v'chyeh, v'yimeincha meshiv da ki mot tamut ata v'chol asher lach, v'yashkem Avimelech baboker, v'yikra l'chol avadav, v'yidaber et kol hadvarim ha'ele be'oznehem, Vayiru ha'anashim me'od.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Our sixth aliyah takes us to page 111, about a quarter of the way through the page, verse number 9. Yamdud Yerachmael Lezer ben David, V'Bela Bela ben Yitzhak, Shishi. Baruch Adonai Barak Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Barak Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch
Amen.
Amen. Vayikra Avimelech leAvraham. Vayomer lo mesita lanu meratati lach. Ki heveta alai v'amalakti chata'a gdola. Masim asher liasu asita imadi. Vayomer Avimelech el Avraham merita. Ki asita hadavar hazeh. Vayomer Avraham ki amarti ra in yirat Elohim bamakom hazeh v'harguni al devar ishti.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natan b'tukenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Ya'amod Shmuel Reuven ben Benjamin Yehoshua ve'Yehuda Aviva Shvi'i.
We're continuing now with our seventh reading, about halfway through about 3/4 of the way through page 111, verse number 12.
Baruch et Adonai hamvarach. Baruch Adonai hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. V'gam amna choti bat avi hu ach lo bat imi vat hili leisha vayehi kasher hitu oti Elohim mi beit avi va'omar la zechaste kasher tasi imadi el kol hamakom asher navo shama imri li achihu. Vayikach Avimelech tzonu vakar vavadim ushvachot. Vayiten liAvraham vayeshev loho et Sarah ishto.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'hayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Our Ach Aaron Aliyah takes us to page 112, third line on the page, verse number 15. Ya'amdu Dovin Benjamin ben Yitzhak v'Penina v'Rezel bat Tuvia v'Ser Rivka Ach Aaron.
Baruch et Adonai hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Barak Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayomer Avimelech hine artzi lefanecha betobenecha shev. U'sara amar hine natati elef kesef le'achicha hine hula kesut einayim v'chol asher yichav ekol v'nochachat vayitpalel Avraham el ha'Elohim vayirpa Elohim et Avimelech v'et ishto v'yamhota v'yaladu ki atzar Adonai biad kol rechem leveit Avimelech al devar Sarah eshet Avraham.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. We now rise for the chanting of the half Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah v'yamad divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael bagala uv'izmahan kariv v'yimeru. Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevarach Li'alam Li'omei Omaya Yitbaharach V'yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, shemeda kudasha, richu, liyehelah min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damihiran bi'alma v'yimeru.
Amen. You may be seated. At this time, we'll be doing a special Misha Berach for those in our community that need healing. Now, today, during our break, I ask you to think of those in your life that may need a prayer for healing, both spiritually, physically. Misha Berach Avotenu Abraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov Imatenu Seriv Karach Veleya Hu Yivarech Rebeit Chacholim Aleichem Ezrakam Refuatam Lishlach Lechem Mehera Refuah Min Hashamayim Refuah HaNefesh Refuah HaGuf B'tok Shar Cholim B'zet Edei Yotzkim B'tzor Kechem Shabbat Him Rezok Refro Krovo Lavo Hashta B'zman Kari V'nomar Amen. Ta'amod, ta'amod, ta'amod. Habachura haba mitzvah. Shoshana dorit bat Benyamin Yehoshua vehudi saviva. Maftir chazak.
We now turn forward to the bottom line on page 121 for our concluding reading.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Ramrach Olam Ba'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Barach Banu Mikol Amim V'natam Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah. Vayahi Aharei Hadvarim Ha'eleh Vaygad La'avraham Lemor Hine Yalda Milkagam Hi Bani Lehorahi Ha Et Utz Bechoro Vet Buz Ahiv Vet Kamuel Aviv Avram Vet Kesed Vet Hazo Vet Pildos Vet Yimlof Vet Betuel Uvtuel Yalad Et Rivka Shemona Ele Yalda Milka Lenahor Ahi Avraham Uvpilak Sho Ushma Reuma Vatele Gamhi Et Tavach Vet Gacham Vet Tahash Vet Ma'aha. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Natam Lanu Torah Temet V'Hayei Olam Nata B'Tochenu Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Let us please rise.
Mishe Berak Avotenu Abraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov v'Imotenu Seriv Karach Veleya Hu Yivarech Et Shoshana Dorit Bat Benyamin Yehoshua v'Ehudi Saviva Shehegia lemitzvot v'latal hayom likvod haTorah v'likvod haShabbat HaKadosh Baruch Hu yishmerecha v'chayecha v'konen et liba liot shalem im Adonai Elohecha Negato b'torato l'alevi rachav u'lishmor mitzvotav lioti mitzalim tzo et Yehuda v'lioti isha u'evet v'huva u'necha hayom u'v'kol yom l'kenu l'esrakamim b'necha u'v'nei koroecha u'shlach v'rachav zlacha b'kol ma'aseh yadecha yihi ratzon shizkohorecha lekodlo letorah le Chuppah u'masim tovim v'nomar Amen.
May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless Rachel, who has been called to the Torah upon reaching the age of mitzvot, with reverence for God, for the Torah, and the Shabbat. May the Holy One protect and sustain Rachel, helping her to be wholehearted in her faith, to study Torah, to fulfill the mitzvot, and to walk in God's ways. May she have the strength to find her calling, to be a person who is both loving and beloved. And may she find love and compassion today and every day in your eyes, O God, and in the eyes of all who see her. May her parents rear her to maturity, guiding Rachel to a love of Torah, to the blessing of chuppah, and to a life of good deeds. Amen.
Amen. Segment of Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, segment of Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, segment of Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, segment of Yehelanu, 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 Uveko Yisrael, Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Uveko Yisrael, David Melech Yisrael, Chai Chai V'Kayam, David Melech Yisrael, Chai Chai V'Kayam, Mazel Tov.
Yamdu Agva Beglila.
Don't have to tell the kids twice.
וזאת התורה אשר עשה משה לבני בני ישראל על פי אדוני ביד משה. מי שבירך אבותינו אברהם יצחק ויעקב שרה רבקה רחל ולאה ויברך את כל הקרואים אשר אותו יום את כל המתפללים אותם בית כל משפטיכם. הקדוש ברוך הוא שלח ברכה וצלחה בכל מעשה ידיהם עם כל ישראל אחיהם ונאמר אמן. You may be seated. The chanting of the Haftarah for Vayera can be found on page 124 of our Chumashim. We're going to do the Haftarah according to the minhag, to the custom of the Sfaradim. So we're going to end on verse 23, which is on page 125. So we begin on 124 and we end on page 125.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu me'elech haolam asher bahar b'nvi'im tovim v'ratzah v'divreihem nemarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'torah Moshe avdo v'Yisrael amo v'nvi'ei ha'emet Vasadek. Vaisha Achat Minshe B'nei Hanvi'im Saka Elisha Lemor Avdecha Ishi Met Ve'ata Yadata Ki Avdecha Haya Yarei Et Adonai Ve'chan Oshe Ba Lekachat Et Shnei Yeladai Lo Le'avadim Vayomer Elecha Elisha Ma Aselach Hagidi Li Ma Yeshlach Babait Vatomer Ein Leshivach Lach Lachol Babait Ki Imasuf Shaman Vayomer Lechi Selilach Kelim Minahutz Me'et Kol Shechinaich, Kelim Rekim, Al Tamiti, Uvat, Vesagart, Hadelet, Be'adech, Udad Banaich, Veyatsakt, Al Kol HaKelim, Ha'ele, Ve'chamale, Tasi, Vatele Me'ito, Vatiskor, Hadelet, Ba'ada, Udad Banecha, Hem, Magishim, Eilecha, Vehibot Socket, Vahi, Kim Lota Kalim, Vatomer El Bana, Hagisha, Eli Od Kali, Vayomer Eilecha, Ein Od Kali, Vayamod Hashaman, Vatavo, Vatagid, Leish Elohim, Vayomer Lechi, Michri, et Hashem, Veshalmi, et Nishech, Ve'at, Uvanaich, Tihi, Banotar, Vahi Hayam, Ve'avor, Elisha El Shunen, Ve'sham, Isha Gedolah, Ve'tachazekbo, Leholachem, Vahi, Midel Vro, Yasor Shama, Leholachem, Vatomer Elisha, Hinena Yadati, Ki Ish Elohim, Kadosh Hu, Over Elenu, Yas Tamid, Naasena, Al Yatkir Ktana, Venasim Losham, Mita Veshuchon, Vihise Umnora, Vechaya, Biva'o Elenu, Yasor Shama, Vayahi Hayam, Ve'avor Shama, Yasar Halia, Vizka Shama, Vayomer El Gichazi, Naro, Kera, Lashunami Tazot, Vayikra La, Vatamot, Lefanav, Vayomer Lo, Emorna Elecha, Hine, Haradet Elenu, Et Koharda Chazot, Me, La Sot Lach, Hayesh, La Deber Lach, Al Chamelech, O El Sar, Hatzivah, Vatomer, Betoch Ami, Anohi Yoshavet, Vayomer, Ume, La Sot Lach, Vayomer Yichazi, Aval, Bain, Ein La, Ve'isha Zakain, Vayomer, Kerala, Vayikra La, Vata'amod, Vapata, Vayomer, La Moed Hazeh, Ka'e Haya, Et Hovaket Bain, Vatomer El Adoni, Ish HaElohim, El Techazef, Bishipatecha, Vatachar Ha'isha, Vateled Bain, La Moe Hazeh, Ka'e Haya, Asher Diber Elecha, Elisha, Vaigdal Hayaled, Vayhi Hayam, Vayatsei Al Aviv, Al Hakotzrim, Vayomer El Aviv, Roshi, Vayomer Al Hanar, Sa'ehu Elimo, Vayisa'ehu, Vayviehu Elimo, Vayeshev El Birkecha, Ad HaSaharaim, Vayamot, Vatahal Hatashkivehu, Al Mitat, Ish HaElohim, Vatiskor Ba'ado, Vatetzei, Vatikra Elisha, Vatomer Shilcha Nali Echad Min Hanarim, Velchat Hatonot, Velrutza Ad Ish HaElohim, Velshuva, Vayomer Medua At Holechet Elav Hayom Lo Chodesh Velo Shabbat, Vatomer Shalom, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam, Sor Kol HaOlamim, Sadiq B'chol Hadarot, Ha'el HaNe'eman, Ha'omer Ve'oseh, Hamdaber Kayin, Shechol Devarav Emet V'Sedek. Ne'eman, Atahu Adonai Eloheinu, V'ne'emanin Devarecha, V'devarachad Miparecha, Ahor Lo Shuv Rekam, Ki Al Melech Ne'eman, V'rachaman Ata, Baruch Atah Adonai, Ha'el HaNe'eman B'chol Devarav. Rahem Al Tzion Ki Hi Beit Hayenu V'vat Nefesh Toshia B'mheira V'yameinu Baruch Atah Adonai
Baruch Shemo.
Mesameach Zion Bevanecha
Amen.
Samheinu Adonai Eloheinu Eliachlan Aviv Avdecha U'malhut Beit Aviv Meshichecha B'mheira Yavo V'yagel Libeinu Al Kiso Lo Shevzar V'lo Yimhalu Adahirim Et Kevodo Ki B'Shem Kochecha Nishvat Lo Shelo Yibeh Neiro Le'olam Va'ed Baruch Atah Adonai
Baruch Shemo.
Magen David
Amen.
Al HaTorah Ve'al Havodah Ve'al Hanvi'im Ve'al Yom HaShabbat Hazeh Shenatata Lanu Adonai Eloheinu L'Kdusha V'Limnucha Lekavod Utiparet Al HaKol Adonai Eloheinu Anachnu Modim Lach U'Marchim Otah Yitbarach Shimcha B'Fi Kol Chai Tamid Le'olam Va'ed Baruch Atah Adonai
Baruch Shemo.
Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Amen.
Good morning and Shabbat Shalom. Becoming a bat mitzvah is an important milestone to me, as well as it symbolizes the importance of women being a part of the service in the greater community. I am the first girl in the super family to read from the Torah. Reading from the Torah and chanting my Hafta is a tradition of the Jewish people that I was able to experience and look forward to doing in the future. I want to pass this tradition down to the next generation of females in my family. Both my mom and dad have made having a bat mitzvah a priority in my life. For me, this has been a wonderful opportunity to study Torah and become a part of my community. Becoming a bat mitzvah will continue to reinforce my Jewish identity and values. Another reason, and maybe the most important one, is that my bat mitzvah represents in my life is that now I'm expected to start following the 613 commandments in Judaism. I look forward in continuing to be an active member at TBS Shalom and participating in services on a regular basis. According to Abraham Ibn Ezra, a Spanish rabbi and interpreter of the Torah in the Middle Ages, the people of Sodom were evil because they refused to share their wealth and abundance and made fun of others who were poor. They refused to take care of the sick or needy and didn't offer hospitality. The leaders of the city were greedy and selfish. They made the act of cruelty a public policy. They punished citizens that reached out to the hungry or the homeless to provide shelter. This was a city of no tzedakah, which literally means a city of no justice, completely the opposite in the way the Jewish people are taught to act. One of the lessons we learned from my Torah portion is to be generous and helpful to others. Never become like the people of Sodom. Since second grade, I have attended Camp Ramah in Ojai, California. Camp Ramah has strengthened my Jewish identity, created lifelong friendships, and taught me the importance of mitzvot. Due to camp being canceled, I decided to create my bat mitzvah project to bring joy to the Tikva group at Camp Ramah. The Tikva program provides children with special needs the ability to attend sleepaway camp. Along with the help of some friends, we tie-dyed 40 t-shirts for these campers. Tie-dyeing is a big part of a camper's experience, and I know this will bring happiness to the Tikva group. Next summer at Ramah, I'm excited to be giving out these t-shirts to the campers. What have I learned from my Bat Mitzvah project? Doing small acts of kindness can make a big difference in your community. Jewish people are commanded by God to perform acts of gimilut hasadim, loving acts of kindness in the community. I would like to thank my family and friends who made the trip to Las Vegas, along with everyone on Zoom today. Special thank you to Papa for making my video montage, and Grammy and Zeta for always giving me extra Hebrew assistance. To my Jima, who encouraged my creativity and always was there for me. I miss her a lot, and she will always be an inspiration for me. Thank you to Rabbi Goodman, Rabbi Hodson, DJ, Adam, and Nancy for helping me prepare for this day. Mom, thank you for organizing and driving me to all my Hebrew lessons and giving me the encouragement and support. Dad, thank you for studying with me and giving me advice about my Bat Mitzvah. Adam, you are the best big brother, and thank you for helping me with my prayers and listening to my Haftorah over and again. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. At this time, I'd like to call upon Jill and Ben to please come to the bima to share some words with Rachel.
Rachel, you did an amazing job, and you should be very proud of yourself. You hold many qualities that I admire: determination, confidence to try new things, sense of humor, but most of all, you're a kind and caring person. I love to see you smile and hear your infectious laugh. The nickname Mini-Me was given to you at such a young age. As flattered as I was, you aren't my Mini-Me at all. The truth is, you're Rachel, and you have your own style. In the spring of second grade, you came to us wanting to go to sleepaway camp in California. I immediately said, no, you can't go away. I never went to camp, and you can't be away from us. Of course, your dad said, she's going. That summer, I put you on a bus at Shomrei Torah Synagogue in Woodland Hills, not knowing another camper, only to return after 2 weeks saying it was the best time of your life and you're going next summer for a month. Sure enough, you have been going to camp every summer. Camp has been an integral part of building your Jewish identity and your independence. Another accomplishment is standing up here today on the bima, reading from the Torah, and chanting your Haftorah, something I haven't done. You have created a tradition that will be passed down to the next generations of females in our family. You are always looking to try new things. You can watch a YouTube video and perfectly recreate it, whether it's making friendship bracelets, paper fidget cubes, solving the Rubik's Cube, my all-time favorite, making slime, or more recently, making masks for friends and family. If we have the supplies or ingredients in the house, you will create it. You have an amazing talent. All of your accomplishments make up who you are. Rachel Danielle Super. Being Jewish means many things to us: community, family, traditions. We know firsthand how important community is. This year, our community was there for us and helped us through our saddest time. The comfort we felt from our friends, we can't thank them enough. We miss our Jima terribly, but she left a legacy for you and Adam to continue. Her creativity is definitely something you inherited. Her love for family will live on in each of us. In your Judaic class, you researched your family's heritage and you learned about Jima's journey, how a young 9-year-old girl and her parents, your great-grandparents, escaped communist Hungary during a period of political and religious unrest. Their perseverance, with the help of my grandfather's brother, Teddy Roth, and some Russian army men, they made it safely to Vienna, Austria, and then arriving in America in 1957. You are named after your great-grandmother, Rose Rudvani, who never gave up, worked hard, and was proud of her heritage and being Jewish. As we told your brother at his bar mitzvah, and it remains true to you, we have laid the foundation for you to live a Jewish life. We have given you a Jewish education since you began preschool at Temple Beth Shalom, and for the past 9 years, you have attended the Adelson Educational Campus and will continue until you graduate high school. As you stated in your speech, becoming a bat mitzvah continues to reinforce your Jewish identity and values. We would be remiss not to say 2020 has been a difficult year, but you rose to the occasion. COVID-19 may have rewritten your bat mitzvah weekend, but it didn't change how extremely proud and accomplished and how hard you have worked. You are part of a special group of young adults who had their bat mitzvah during a pandemic. This is a day you will never forget. My blessing to you is, always work to your potential, never give up, continue your creativity, and most importantly, be proud of your heritage. You will always be my brown-eyed girl. I love you.
Shabbat Shalom. Good morning. I would like to take a moment to thank all of our families, relatives, and friends currently on Zoom, and those that have traveled near and far to celebrate Rachel's bat mitzvah with us in person. First, I would like to congratulate Rachel on an excellent job. Rachel, you read your Torah portion and led services beautifully. Your mom and I are felling and bursting with pride. You have made us both very proud at this momentous occasion. Rachel, several months ago, while Mom, you, and I were studying together at our kitchen table, one word stuck out and caught my immediate attention. It was the word passive, and it is a constant theme in your Torah portion. We discussed that it meant watching or allowing events to happen or occur without individual input or becoming involved. The idea of passiveness actually comes from the exact opposite concept found in your Torah portion, Vayera, that you beautifully spoke about this morning. It specifically says that Abraham ran to greet the two angels disguised as men and offered them food, drink, and relaxation. The Torah further describes that Lot went out of his way to sneak guests into his home in the darkness of the night in order not to be caught by the public mob, which was 100% against kindness to strangers. This mitzvah of hosting guests is one that you can do your entire life, now at our house or in the future in your college dorm. Let's take a moment to expand this concept further. Now that you are a bat mitzvah and becoming a woman, your mom and I hope that you will continue to seek out the Jewish community and remain active throughout your life. We will encourage you to continue to be an active member of TBS USY group and attend temple services. Then, when you start college, we will encourage you to join the Hillel on campus. As you may know, your Auntie Naomi found her husband Jesse at the Harvard Hillel, and your Grammy found the love of her life, Zeta, at the Berkeley Hillel. Once you graduate college and begin your career, we will once again encourage you to join your neighborhood synagogue, where you will always have a welcoming place to celebrate all of your upcoming simchas to come. Back in September, we all watched the documentary about the remarkable life of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Not only was she the first Jewish woman who sat on the Supreme Court, but she also attended Cornell, Harvard, and finally graduated from Columbia Law School. During her entire career, RBG was never passive and always fought relentlessly for women's rights. We encourage you to be active and not leave a passive life. You currently excel at school, cheer, and in all of your creative endeavors. Always set your goals high and know that you can accomplish anything you put your mind to. More importantly, though, please remember that your active connection and continued involvement in the Jewish community around you will strengthen your character, your Jewish values, and help you to become a stronger woman. We love you very much. Let us please rise. We're going to continue with a prayer for our country. And I think the prayer for our country is going to be done via Zoom. Let us all pray together with Jennifer, who's on Zoom at this time. Let us pray together a prayer for the state of Israel, page 178. Avinu Shevashamayim, Tzur Israel vegoalo, Barech et Medinat Israel, Reshit Smichat Geulatenu. Hagen alea ve'avrat chazecha, ufros alea sukat shlomecha, ושלח אורך ויעמידך לראשיה, שריה ויועציה, ותקנם בעצה טובה מלפניך. חזק את ידי מגני ארץ קודשנו, בהנחילם אלוהינו ישועה, בעטרת ניצחון תעטרם, בנתת שלום בארץ, ושמחת עולם ליושביה, ונאמר אמן. And we continue praying a prayer for peace responsibly, also via Zoom. Sandy is going to lead us in that prayer. Page 178. Then nation will not threaten nation, and the human family will not again know war.
For all who live on earth shall realize we have not come into being to hate or to destroy. We have come into being to praise, to labor, and to love.
Compassionate God, bless the leaders of all nations with the power of compassion.
Fulfill the promise conveyed in Scripture. I will bring peace to the land, and you shall lie down, and no one shall terrify you.
I will rid the land of vicious beasts, and it shall not be ravaged by war.
Let justice and righteousness flow like a mighty stream. Let God's peace fill the earth as the waters fill the sea. And let us say,
Amen. We continue praying Ashrei, which is going to be led by Adam and Rachel, page 181.
Ashrei yoshvei beitecha, od yachalucha selah.
Ashrei ha'am shekahalo, Ashrei ha'am sh'Adonai Elohav.
Tehillah leDavid, ar Michael chayka melech, v'amrkashim le'olam va'ed.
B'chol yom avarchecha, v'ahola shimcha le'olam va'ed.
May be seated.
Gadol Adonai hula me'od, v'ligduato ein heker.
Dor ledor yeshabach ma'asecha, ugvuratecha yagidu.
Hadar kvot hodecha, v'divrei niflotecha asicha.
Ve'ezuz noratecha yomeru, ugdalatecha asaprena.
Zecher rav tuvcha yabi'u, v'sikatecha yeranenu.
Chanun v'rachum Adonai, erech apayim ugdol hased.
Tov Adonai lakol, v'rachmav al kol ma'asa'av.
Yoducha Adonai kol ma'asecha, v'chasidecha yevarchucha.
Kavod maltahutecha yomeru, ugrotecha yedaberu.
Lehodia livnei ha'adam geverotav, ufod hadar malchuto.
Malchutecha malchut kol olamim, umolchatecha bechol dor v'ador.
Somech Adonai lecho hanoflim, vezokef lecho hakfufim.
Eine kol elecha yesaberu, v'atanotem lechem et oklam be'ito.
Potech et yadecha, umasvia lechol chai ratzon.
Sadiq Adonai bechol derachav, v'asid bekol ma'asa'av.
Karov Adonai lechol korav, lechol asher yikra'u be'emet.
Retzon yeriav ya'aseh, ve'at shavatam yishmam v'yoshiem.
Shomer Adonai et kol havav, ve'et rashaim yashmir.
Tehillah Adonai edaber pi, v'varech kol basar shem kodsho le'olam va'ed. Ve'anachnu nevarech ya, me'ata ve'ad olam.
Hallelujah. Let us please rise, page 183.
Rachel. Rachel. Yehalelu et Shem Adonai, ki niskav Shemo levado, hodo al eretz v'shamayim, vayaren keren le'amo, tehillah lechol chasidav, livnei Yisrael am kerovo. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. V'v'nacho yom ha'Yisrael.
Shuv Adonai. ארץ חיים היא, למה חזיתי בה? בכל נתיבותיה שלום. אדוני אליך נשובה. קדש ימינו קדם. Let us please be seated.
Shabbat Shalom. Wow, it is great to be in this spot. It's great to be in shul today. It's great to be with you. And it's really great to see Rachel become bat mitzvah. It's great to be with the super family. It's great to be back. For those of you who don't know, I've actually been on vacation in Hawaii for the past 2 weeks. I'm just kidding. I've been sick technically. In all seriousness, I want to thank you all again for supporting me during my illness, but now I'm back. And I think what's really great about being back is being back on the team, being back leading services with Rabbi Goodman and DJ. I feel like when we're up on the bima together, someone should play that song, "The Boys Are Back in Town." Do you know that song, "The Boys Are Back in Town"? I've been thinking about it a lot. It's a great song written by a band called Thin Lizzy, 1976. And what's great about it is the sentiment of having your crew. Did you have a crew? I bet you can think about your crew. You remember cruising around with your friends, playing your music, going to the place where it was at. Maybe it was the pool hall or the ice cream parlor, the skating rink, maybe even the rock and roll show. Then you and your crew runs into everybody else and their crew. What is going on? Where's so-and-so? Man, how have you been? You'd hang out, maybe get into a little bit of trouble, but not too much, because you got to stay cool. That's what the song is about. Now, obviously, the song is called "The Boys Are Back in Town," but I think this applies to anyone who's ever done what I just described, hanging out with the gang, your boys, your girls, whoever, your group. Now, of course, there's always the unofficial leader of the group, and they are the most cool. Think of Fonzie from Happy Days, the Fonz, someone else. What they say goes, and they're even cool when they're not cool, and you feel cool just being around them. After reading this parsha, I've decided I think this is the Boys Are Back in Town parsha. Because the overall story arc of this parsha is just one big quest to hang out and maybe get into just a little bit of trouble. If we look at the parsha, the first 2 verses of Parshat Vayera is God hanging out with Abraham. God is obviously the leader of this group. God plays it really cool, but occasionally God is also willing to get into some trouble. Then there's our friend Abraham, classic wingman, sidekick. He's the guy that is just happy hanging out with whoever is around. So they're kicking it in Abraham's tent, and then 3 more guys show up. Maybe they're angels. Abraham is excited to see them. He says, "What is going on, guys?" Get some something to eat, get some something to drink. That's what you do. They start lounging around, hanging out. The boys are back in town. Now, one of the first things these guys say to Abraham, look at the text, it's there. He says, "Where's Sarah?" Abraham says, "Oh man, she's over there in the tent." These guys are having a blast together. And of course, anytime you hang out with your gang, the thing you have to do is make plans to hang out the next time. So one of the guys says, "Hey man, I'm going to come back next year. You're going to have a son." Abraham says, "Wow, that's wild." And then one of them must have wanted to get into a little bit of trouble because they all leave the tent and they start cruising, just like you probably did. And where did they go? They go to the place where trouble happens. They go to Sodom, as we call it in Texas, Sodom, usually followed by Gomorrah. Anyway, that's where these guys go. And God, like I said, God is the one that wants to get into a little bit of trouble. God says, listen, you see that crew down in Sodom? They're going to get it. I'm done with them. I am over it. And here is where Abraham plays it really cool. He's really embodying the wingman, the role of the sidekick. He says, hey, God, do you really want to do that? I mean, Sodom, they're not so bad. I bet I can even find 50 of them that are pretty cool. And God says, oh yeah, and Abraham says, all right, maybe not 50, but definitely 45. Conversation goes on like this for a while. And the thing I like about this Torah portion is that God is one of the crew here. God isn't portrayed as a supernatural deity. God is someone here that you can kick it with. God is someone you can talk to. God is someone who gets angry. God is someone you can argue with in this parsha. And as Jews, we might take this notion of arguing with God for granted, but let me promise you, people in other traditions aren't willing to do that. Sometimes I teach the Intro to Judaism class here at the shul for people who are wanting to explore Judaism, possibly convert. And when we go over this story, sometimes it kind of shocks them, this notion that you can argue with God and that God is receptive to it. That is a fascinating concept that doesn't occur in every tradition. What I want you to do is take a moment, especially after this week, think about the people that you could argue with and possibly sway. If you actually got into an argument with them, who could you sway to your way of thinking? And I'm willing to bet that the people you could sway in arguments are people that you know and love, probably people that you have a relationship with. It always boggles my mind when people on social media will post all of these political arguments to an audience of people they probably half know. It's very unlikely that anyone's political beliefs are going to be swayed by someone on Facebook that they met at a party once 4 years ago. It just doesn't work like that. This teaches us then that if we want to be able to argue with God, we have to be in a relationship with God. We have to be in God's crew. We have to be able to hang out with God, and believe it or not, I think that's why we come to places like a synagogue. We come here because this is God's house. This is where God kicks it. And when we engage in prayer, the whole idea is we're really trying to initiate a conversation. We say, God, thank you. We say, God, help me. We say, God, help us. We say some things that one would say to a friend, someone that they're in a relationship with. So if today your crew is a little bit different than it was back in the day, if your crew doesn't really cruise the streets with the music blasting, looking for trouble, that's okay, because God wants to meet you where you're at. I used to hang out with a group of rock and rollers, and now I hang out with my kids and my wife. We watch Elmo in the morning, Antiques Roadshow after dinner, and we go to bed at 8:30. And you know what? I think that I try to invite God into that routine. Just like Abraham invited God into his tent, I try to invite God into mine. And I'll tell you, God is the greatest wingman I could ever ask for. So this Shabbat, I'm glad to be back. I'm glad that the boys are back in town. I'm glad everyone's here. I'm glad to be with you, hanging out in God's house. Shabbat Shalom.
Let us please now rise. We're going to continue on page 184 with the Chatzi Kaddish for Musaf. Page 184.
Shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divra kirte, ve'amlik malhute, ve'hayahon yuvemehon dechol beiti Israel, bagala uvisman kariv, vimeru. Amen.
Yehi shmei Rabba mevorach, le'alam uleolmei almaya, idvarach.
Yitpara, Vishtapar, Vitpar, Vitramam, Vitnase, Vitadar, Vitalal, Vitalal, Shemedekud Shah, Brehu, Elam, Inkol, Birhata, Vishirata, Tushbehata, Vanehemata, Dami, Rambilma, Vimeru.
We continue now praying the Amidah, beginning on page 185. Let us please remain standing.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avoteinu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rahel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'koneh Hakol, V'soher Hasdei Avot, Umi vigolel nivnei nehem, umat shemo be'ahava. Melech uzer ufaked Mashiach umagain. Baruch atah Adonai, Magin Avraham ufaked Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, mechayaye metiv tavrav lehoshia. Meshiach ruach umorid hagashem. Mechakel chayim bechesed, mechaye meiti berachamim rabim, somech nofrim rafeh cholim, umatir asurim, kayem eminato, lishenei afar, min kamocha ba'al gevurot, du midomein lach, melech maimid, Haye, Uvmatzmi al Yeshua, Venem Antaha Vechayot Meiti, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechaye HaMeiti. Na'aritzecha Venakdishecha, Kisot Siach, Sarfei Kodesh, Hamakdishim, Shimcha B'Kodesh, Kakatu, Ayal Neviecha, Vikara Ze'el Ze'viamar. Kadosh, 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 Adonai Sevaot, Malakav Aretz Kevodo. Kevodo, Malay Olam, Mishar Tov, Shoalim Ze'el Ze, Ahaye, Mikom Kevodo, Le'umata, Baruch Yomeru, Le'umata, Baruch Yomeru, Baruch Kevod Adonai, Mikomo. Min komo hu yifem berachamim v'yachon am hamachamdim shemo eref laboker b'kol yom tamid pamayim be'ahava shema omrim Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Hu Eloheinu Hu Avinu Hu Malkeinu Hu Moshienu V'hu Shashmienu Be'achamav Sheni Le'ene Kol Chai 999999999999999 Lachem le'Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Uvdivrei nifshecha kaktuv le'mor. Yomloch Adonai le'olam. Elokai et Sion. Le'dor vador. Hallelujah. Le'dor vador. Le'dor vador. Le'dor vador nagi golecha. Unetzon. Netzachim. Kedush atecha nakdish. Shimchimecha Eloheinu mipino lo yavush leolam va'ed. Ki melech gadol vekadosh ata mekadosh ata. Ledor vador. Ledor vador. Ledor vador nagi golecha. Unetzon. Unetzachim. Kedusha techa nakdish. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el ha'kadosh.
If you finish praying the Amidah, you may be seated. We're going to continue with Kaddish Shalem, page 203. Amen.
B'alma divra kirte v'anglich malhute v'hayahon yuvamehon dechol beit Yisrael v'agala u'izman kari v'maru. Amen.
Amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevorach le'olam le'olmei almaya yitbarach.
Yitparach v'yishtapah v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalal v'yitalal shemei d'kudsha
Brechu.
La'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nehemata damiram belma v'imru.
Amen.
Titkabal sloton uva utahon dechol Yisrael kodam uva uhon div v'shamaya v'imru. Amen.
Amen.
Yehi shrablaba rabba min shemaya v'hayim aleinu kol Yisrael v'imru.
Amen.
Oh, say shalom b'romav.
Uyase shalom aleinu.
Ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. V'imru.
Amen. Let us turn to page 204. Enk Eloheinu.
Enk Eloheinu, Enk Adonenu, Enk Malkeinu, Enk Moshienu, Mik Eloheinu, Mik Adonenu, Mik Malkeinu, Mik Moshienu, Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Malkeinu, Lodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, Atahu Shitivru, Avotenu, Lefanecha et Ketoret Hasamim.
I'd like to call upon Jed Paley, representative of USY, to present this Havdalah. Please be seated. To present this Havdalah candle to Rachel.
Mazel tov, Rachel. You did an amazing job and we're all proud of you. You made it look very easy. We thank you for being involved with the temple and throughout the years. And I hope you join USY next year. On behalf of USY, we'd like to present you with this very special Havdalah candle. As you light it each week, may you be reminded of this very special day.
Mazel tov. Jed, did you write that? That was very good. Shkoyach, very good. I'd like now to call upon Joel Mann, past president of our congregation, for presentations to Rachel on behalf of our temple.
Good morning, Rachel. Mazel tov. You know, Rachel, if I were to write a Yelp review, I would definitely give it 5 stars. On behalf of the board of directors of Temple Beth Shalom, I'd like to present to you this certificate of your bat mitzvah. But that's not an ordinary certificate. You know, I often present certificates and, you know, it goes in a drawer. But I think you should take an extra hard look at this one in particular, because this one is your certificate that you did this amongst all the craziness that's going on in the world, a pandemic and what have you, technical difficulties, studying during all that. You should be extremely proud of all the effort that you put forth. And you should definitely be proud of this certificate indicating just that you were successful in doing that. Also, on behalf of the Women's League and the Men's Club, I'd like to present to you your chumash and a Kiddush cup. Now, again, this is no ordinary chumash and Kiddush cup. You should understand that this also represents community. The community that's surrounding you during all that's going on. And I think it's no surprise that both of these gifts come from organizations that your parents are heavily involved in and really strongly participate to help others in the community. And again, it goes to that sense of community that comes in your family. And I think you should look at this as another mark of that community and continue on that tradition. So with that, I wish you mazel tov, congratulations, and good job.
Rachel, first of all, I have to say that just what Joel said, right? If we could leave a Yelp review or a TripAdvisor review, whatever, it'll be all the stars in the world. But in lieu of reviews, we have presentations of things that you can use for the rest of your life and put them to really, really good use. I want to start the couple of words that I want to share with you this morning by doing exactly what I did in the previous 2 B'nai Mitzvah, which were Grace Hirsch, who was wonderful, and Reuben Silver, who was wonderful. Not as wonderful as you, but he was wonderful. You know, I have to do that every Shabbat. That's what happens, Reuben. And you know, the 3 of you have something in common. Besides being in the same class and all that kind of stuff, you were the first 3 B'nai Mitzvah of this new year for us. And I kept thinking, you know, we have to do something to change the way this year is going. So beginning, you know, the new Jewish year with your B'nai Mitzvah has been a wonderful thing. So I'm going to present to you something that I presented to them too, that I've been keeping for a long time, that I brought from Israel with me a long time ago. And just like I gave to the other 2 B'nai Mitzvah, I want to share with you this Roman coin. Here, hold it in your hand for a sec. That's literally at least 1,800 years old. So that's old. that's older than your parents, older than your grandparents, older than me even. So I want you to understand what that means, right? And what I said also to Reuben and Grace is that the Romans, who actually minted this coin at some point, are no longer around as a people. Yeah, you have Italy, but they don't speak the same language, they don't believe the same things. Actually, it's a completely different thing. But we are still here. And now, let me put it back in its pouch, and I'm going to show you something else. And I just don't say that we're still here. There's a reason. There's a method to my madness, right? So I also want to share with you and give you this little box where we put the coin in, which is made with stamps from the modern-day state of Israel. Now, take a look at this stamp over here. Can you tell what that is? It's Sarah. And what is she doing? She's giving food to 3 people. Who do you think those people are? The angels we read about this week. So think about it, right? The Torah, which is even older than the coin that I just placed in your hand, has stories that are older than the Roman stories who were in this world and had a civilization, right? And we get a chance in the modern day and age to place these stories at the forefront of who we are. They continue to inspire us, and they continue to make us a people, which is very different than just minting coins or building buildings. Being a people is something that transcends time and space, Rachel. And today, although you are already part of our people, you begin a journey to really understand what that means. Now, I want to share with you something that happens in your Torah portion that I hope you remember, because hopefully if you remember it, it will see you through many difficult and joyful occasions in your life. And that is that you have to learn to see life from your unique perspective. Nobody can see life the way Rachel Super looks at life. Actually, I like to call you Super Rachel, better than Rachel Super. Super Rachel is like a great name. And by the way, if you really want to be Super Rachel, you have to always look at the world through your own eyes, not through Adam's eyes, not through your parents' eyes, not through Joel's or DJ's or me, through your own eyes. When the 3 men come to Abraham, the Torah says, Shlosha Anashim. There's 3 people that approach Abraham. Abraham sees them as angels, as human beings. When they go to Sodom, 2 of them, to announce the destruction of Sodom, the Torah says 2 angels approached Sodom. So your context and who you are and the way your heart feels things causes you to see things in a very different way. Abraham was such a good person. He was such an outstanding example of righteousness that when he saw angels, he saw them as equals. And that's a blessing that I wish to give to you. That when you encounter angels in your life, they're indistinguishable with you. That you become one of those angels, Rachel. That you act with such righteousness, that you act with such compassion in your life, that people can't tell you apart from an angel. And when those angels go to Sodom, and they're identified as angels because the people in Sodom were so horrible that they actually saw the angels because they were 100 times better than them. They couldn't see equals. That's part of the language of the Torah. Now, I want to leave you, since I'm giving you this coin, with a midrash about a coin and the town of Sodom. You spoke about all of the things that people did there, but I want to share with you one example, which to me is one of the most horrible examples of why God had to destroy that city. You can use coins for many things in life. This coin was buried for many, many, many years. We don't know what it was used for. You can use it to build wealth, to build empires. Maybe they'll be destroyed just like the Roman Empire was. Or you can use them to bring justice to the world, which is what we like to do. The word for justice is the same as the word for charity, tzedakah, tzedek. So in the town of Sodom, when they saw somebody asking for tzedakah, people gave that person gold coins. And they were all the same. And each one of those gold coins had the name of the person who gave it to the person who asked for it. And when that person died on the street, because they had a pact that nobody will exchange anything for those coins, they were special coins. When that person died on the street, they will go and they will all look at the gold coins and they will retrieve them because they had their names on them. Can you imagine the cruelty of this? Somebody who's in need, you make them believe that you're helping them, but in fact, you're just making them carry a heavy load of metal. So Rachel, may you use your life always to be a blessing. May you stand up to injustice just like Abraham did. And remember what Abraham said to God, Chalil alecha, far be it from you to do such a thing. I mean, he really goes to town on God. I mean, I wouldn't dare speak like that to my parents, imagine to God. But he does it. And that's the example that you should follow. Everything that God will give you, everything that God has given you, including your intelligence, your smile, your beautiful heart, use it to be a righteous person, Rachel. Use it to become the eyes of those who cannot see and the voice of those who cannot speak. May God always bless you and keep you smiling and as vital, as vibrant, and as loving as we all know you for the rest of your life. May I please ask us to rise? Let us please remain standing. We continue on page 205 with Alain.
Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, l'teikidula leotze bereshit, shelo asanu koyei haratzon, velo samanu k'mishpechot adama, shelo sam chelkenu kachem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, Lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shenu t'shema v'yosef esmei. Okay, nekaveh lach Eloheinu. Kagatu v'toratecha Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed v'nemar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz v'yom mahu yeh
Adonai echad u'shemo echad. Let us please remain standing if you are observing a yahrzeit or you are in mourning. The rest of us may sit down. We're going to continue with Kaddish Yatom, with the Mourner's Kaddish, which is on page 207. Itgadal ve'itgadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma dibrach Yerutei ve'yamlich malchutei, ve'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chayeh dechol bet Israel, v'agala u'vizman kari ve'imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach l'olam u'lolmei almaya. Yitbarach ve'yishtabach ve'yitpa'ar ve'yitromam ve'yitnaseh, ve'yitadar ve'yitaleh ve'yitalal shmei dekudesha brichu. Leila min kol berchata ve'shirata, tushbechata ve'nechemata ve'amiram ve'olma ve'imru amen. Yehi shlam harav amin shemaya, ve'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Israel ve'imru amen. Ose shalom b'imromav, uyase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Israel ve'imru amen. Please be seated. I'd like to call again upon Joel Mann for the announcements.
Hello. Let's try it again. Shabbat Shalom. Mazel tov to Rachel and her entire family. Join us tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. for morning minyan and Monday through Friday at 7:30 a.m. On Monday, November 9th, Radical Torah will be held at 12 p.m. Class will be held online. Please check your email for more detail about accessing this virtual class. From now through November 18th, the ECC will be accepting donations of gift cards for turkeys and canned foods for their Thanksgiving food drive. Also, from November 16th to November 20th, there will be a Scholastic Book Fair at the ECC. More information is available by contacting the ECC office. If you know of a temple member who is in the hospital, ill at home, or in a nursing home, please contact the temple office to let us know. Again, Mazel Tov to the entire super family. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Joel. Thank you. We're going to conclude our service with Adon Olam, followed by Kiddush. You can find Adon Olam on page 211.
Adon Olam,
Asher malach b'terem kol yetzer nivra ve'etza kol azay melech shemo nikra Adon
Olam, ve'acharei kitlot hakol, levado yimlok nora Adon Olam, vehu haya, vehu hove, vehu yeh b'tifara Adon Olam, Adon Olam, Asher malach, b'terem kol, yetzer nivra, ve'etza ve'hezakol, azay melech shemo nikra Adon Olam, vehu echad,
ben sheni
v'ham shelo le'achbira Adon
le'olam
Olam, v'li reishit,
veli tachlit
v'lo ha'oz v'ha'mizra Adon Olam, Adon Olam,
asher malach
b'terem kol, yetzer nivra,
ve'nasa ve'etza kol azay melech shemo nikra Adon
Olam, vehu eli,
v'chai goali
v'tzur chevli v'etzara Adon
Adon Olam
vehu nisi,
umanos li
v'nakosi b'yom egra Adon
Adon Olam
Adon Olam,
asher malach b'terem kol yetzer nivra
Leit nasa v'hefsako,
azay melech shemo nikra Adon Olam
ve'ado
Afkid ruchi ve'et isham ve'aira Adon Olam
ve'im ruchi
Geviyati Adonai ve'lo ira Adon Olam
Adon Olam, Asher malach, b'terem kol, tzir leit nasa
Behefza kol azay melech shemo nikra Adon Olam
V'shamru
Bnei
v'nei
Yisrael
et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת בדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש. על כן ברך אדוני את יום השבת וקדשהו.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri agafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem
Min haaretz. Amen. Adonai Yos lemoiten, Adonai yavarech et amo shalom. Shabbat shalom mevorach. Mazel tov to Rachel and to the supers. Mazel tov everyone. Have a wonderful, wonderful Shabbat. Yasher kochach. Shira, what's up? What's going on? Look, but this time I had to correct the shout out because last time was a little down. It was a downer. So, you know, it's a good shout out. How's it? No. I I said you were the best of the three. See, you're not even listening. Shira was before. Shira was pre-pandemic. Doesn't count. No, it counts differently. Rachel, where's Rachel? Oh, there she is. Let's pack this up. Okay.